Hey there, welcome to a quick start video for your camera. I wanted to make these videos, kind of short, quick videos, because some things are easier seen than explained over a manual or text, and you could personalize them kind of for each camera and see exactly how it works, because these can be a little scary sometimes. So yeah, getting started. This is the Pentax ME Super here. Going over some parts, we have the mode selector. This lets you, on the outside ring, this lets you select what mode your camera is in. We have the film crank here, so this will advance your film like that, and then you just click to go, and it won't advance if you've already advanced or the camera is locked. Over here, this frame here tells you what number of film you're on, so you know how many shots you've taken. Up front, we have the focusing thing on the lens, so this will let you focus your image, which you'll see through here. And then this is the aperture ring, so that controls the aperture of the camera. Over here we have the exposure compensation dial, so this can change how much light you let in for a shot or something. And then on the outside, this is kind of your film speed selector, so you'll set that to the speed of the film you're using. For example, this one's 200 speed. Over here is the rewind lever, and you can pull this up, and that opens the back of the camera. And then down on the bottom, not exactly sure what this does. This button you'll want to not press until you're done with the roll. This will kind of release the tension over here when there's film inside and let you rewind it back into the canister when you're done. And then this one here is the battery compartment. So you can unscrew it with a coin. I find that a quarter usually works best. And plop in the batteries included in your package. Cool. So getting started, you want to load the film first. And to do that, first you want to take your film, look at the speed, and then set the corresponding speed on this dial by lifting up and turning until that speed is centered. So now I've centered, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I've centered 200 speed right there. And you want to take the film and take this and pop it up. Make sure there's no film existing in there. It won't come with any film inside, but if there is film inside, like from a roll you're shooting or something, it will probably ruin it because film is light sensitive. So what I like to do is I like to stick it down with the little knob end there, and then plop this top part in, and you might need to rotate it sometimes so that it goes all the way in, because it kind of like slots into the film canister. And then you take this and pull it out a little, about this far, I'd say. And you want to take this bottom end and make sure you keep it along the bottom. And then you want to slide it into here. So just kind of like that. You don't need to go too far. Just like enough so that it's kind of in there. And then I like to hold on to this side while I wind it. So I take it and I wind that. And you want to make sure that A, it's in there, and then B, that the teeth over here are engaging with the film. And once that's all good, take it and close it up. Double check again that our film speed is correct. And then I like to set this mode dial to 125x. That's just like a set speed so that it's easier to load. And then you click it, and then watching the frame, you want to wind it and click it again until it gets to 0. So now the film is all loaded in there and it's ready to shoot. Cool. Now that your film is in, let's talk a little bit about how to use your camera. So there are 3 main things that kind of affect how much light gets to a photo and in turn how the photo turns out. Aperture is one of them. That's controlled by this ring here. Shutter speed is another one. In auto mode, that's automatically chosen for you. But if you switch to manual mode or 125x or B, you kind of control it yourself. I'll talk a little more about those later. And then ISO, or what this dial here, it's pretty much the film speed, which is how sensitive the film is to light. Higher numbers will be more sensitive, which means if I have a film speed that's like 400 or 800, I can shoot with less light, so kind of maybe at like twilight or something, as opposed to 100 speed where I kind of need to use that in a lot of daylight or something. So yeah, let's talking about aperture first. The lower numbers actually let in more light. and the higher numbers like 22 let in less light. So if I look at this lens, it is now set to an aperture of 1.4, and you can see that it's pretty wide open there. And then as I turn it towards the higher numbers, that starts to stop down and close it up. So this is at f16, and then over here it's at 1.4. So that's one of the factors that will affect how much light comes in. The second one is shutter speed. That's how long the film's exposed to light. If it's exposed to light for 1 minute, you're going to have a much brighter photo than if it was exposed to light for a 60th of a second. So all of those work together. The nice thing about the ME Super is that there's an auto mode where all you have to do is adjust the aperture and the camera will do the rest for you. So except for the focusing, you have to manual focus on these. But so when you're taking a photo, you want to look at it, look at what the indicator on the left is showing. There'll be a bunch of numbers on the left when you look through the viewfinder. And if they are green in auto mode, then generally you're good. Anything 60 or above is a good number. If it's yellow, you might have a little bit of a blurry photo unless you put it on a tripod or like a stable surface. And if it's red, there's an under and over there. So if it's blinking red and it's under, that means your photo's underexposed and it's going to be pretty dark. If it's overexposed, it's going to be pretty bright. But there's no correct photo, so you can do those if you want. But for example, if I was taking a picture of something and the light was yellow at like 15, which means 1/15 of a second, I would want to turn my aperture to a smaller number to let in more light through here, and hopefully that number would go up and make it to 60 or 125, which are good speeds. Another thing aperture does affect is the depth of field, or how much of your photo is in focus. So like portrait mode on your phone and stuff, that's simulating a small aperture number. So something like f2 will mean a lot less of the photo is in focus, while something like f11 means a lot more is in focus. So I generally like to use anything from f11 to 5.6 for like portraits, not portraits, sorry, f11 to 5.6 for like landscapes, 5.6 to like 2.8 for general everyday stuff, and then 2.8 or 2 for portraits or when I really want to isolate the subject. And yeah, so when you take a photo, you use the auto thing, click, wind, click, wind. I'm going to demonstrate with 125x. This is just a set shutter speed of 1/125th of a second. So you would click, and then wind, and then click, and then wind, and keep on going. In manual mode, you can choose the shutter speed. So if you look through the viewfinder here and press these buttons, it will move it up or down. So that gives you a little bit more control over the shutter speed. And in bulb mode, the shutter will stay open for as long as you hold this down. So if you want to take like a longer exposure or something, you would do bulb and gotta wind it. So if I click, the shutter's open, and when I let go, it releases. So that's nice if you're doing like night long exposures or something like that. There's not enough that I could really fit in a quick video to explain it all, but if you have questions at any time, feel free to reach out and ask about those. Oh, and then L mode is lock. So it doesn't let you click the shutter button, prevents you from accidentally taking a picture, and it also saves your battery. So I recommend keeping it in L mode when you're not using it, although these batteries do last for a while. Cool. And so now let's say you've taken your pictures and you're all ready to finish your film. So the most important thing is do not immediately open this up. So if you open it up at any time during the process and it looks like this, that means you've just kind of exposed this film to whatever light you're in, and it's going to ruin the film. This roll I've already ruined for demonstration purposes, but yeah. So when you're done, you want to press this button here. Like I said earlier, that releases kind of the tension on this side. And you want to take this and wind it in the direction the arrow says, and that will wind the film back into the canister. And you'll know you're doing it because you'll feel some resistance, and this thing will also be moving right there where my thumb is on the right. So you'll hear a little click and the resistance will be much less, and then that's how you know it's come off it's back to the start and it's safe. Because this first part of the film isn't light sensitive, so that's fine. So yep, with that ready, I don't like to wind it in all the way just because I don't like to wind it in all the way just because I'm making other videos and demonstrating stuff and it's hard to get it out. But you can totally wind it all the way back in and bring it into a place to get it developed and stuff. Sweet, and then just some general tips and tricks about this camera. If you're worried that your film's not advancing, which hopefully shouldn't happen, but if you are, if there's film in here and you advance the lever, you should see this kind of window move or like wiggle. That means that your film is advancing correctly and that it should be fine. This thing in the front here is a self timer. You can wind it and it will kind of wind down and trigger the shutter when it's done. But in cameras like this is typically the most likely item to break, as you know, film cameras aren't really made new anymore. So just be careful if you do choose to use this. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to let me know at any time. But hopefully enjoy your new film camera.